welcome you all and thank you to being here at the Great Blue Benefit, supporting our beautiful Great Lakes, supporting the work that the Alliance for the Great Lakes does. And I hope that you are enjoying yourselves so far. Would that be a yes?
Yeah.
First of all, let me say thank you to Marlo and our event committee. Marlo Boyle, Aaron Verche, Joyce Solberg, Laura Payne. I know they're all around, but thank you so much for bringing this event together. So I, first of all, want to thank you all for coming and spending your time here under the tent, but in glorious weather. We got very lucky this afternoon with this great evening. And so thank you all for bringing your love for the Great Lakes into the room with your fellow Great Lakes lovers tonight. I appreciate you being here. I know that your support is what powers this organization, and we're all at the Alliance, our board and staff are so thankful for your support tonight. So I want to share with you a few of the wins that we've had recently that your support has made possible. With the support of the Herb Family Foundation in the state of Michigan, we are putting forward a more than $5 million project in Southeast Michigan, installing the most detailed water quality monitoring network for agricultural pollution ever, which we are immensely proud of, working with the state to address the root causes of toxic algae blooms that are fouling drinking water in Lake Erie. Last year we ensured that the states of Michigan and Illinois committed 100% of the local cost of the Brandon Road Lock and Dam barrier to stop invasive carp getting into Lake Michigan. All the state of Illinois has to do is sign an agreement with the federal government and construction can start. So get on the phones. This past April, our report on 20 years of Adopt-A-Beach data from our volunteer program showed that 86% of what's being found, litter that's being found on Great Lakes shorelines is plastic. This was cited in news reports across the country. There was a story on ABC Nightly News, and that information is giving legislators the power they need to be able to ban things, the worst plastics like styrofoam, and to make plastic producers accountable for plastic waste. And finally, we just found out about this week. Later this year, we'll be launching a new $6 million program to make sure that Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funding gets to the restoration of water and nature and environmental justice communities in southern Lake Michigan, places that far too often have borne an unfair brunt of pollution and government inaction. And we're so excited about that. So congratulations to the team who made that possible. All the stuff I just said is the product of years and in some cases decades of hard work by people at the Alliance, supported by people like you. We're all here today because we love the Great Lakes, and that can take many forms. It might be sitting out on a beautiful night like this watching the sun go down. It could be you watching your kids play in the water. It could be as simple as turning on the tap and knowing that you're going to have safe and clean water coming out for you and your family. That love you feel for the Great Lakes is a good start. It is not enough to get the job done. When I was 28, I'm going to tell you my age right now. That was around 2002, which I've already done tonight with several people. I was in my second year working for CAM at the Lake Michigan Federation, and it was my first real job in the environmental world. I was very green. I do not mean environmentally green. I ended up in a room with a bunch of scientists and government leaders and philanthropic people. They were all older than me. They were all concerned, had this urgency in their voice. And the topic that day was invasive carp. The fish were wreaking havoc in the southern US, and they were headed for the Great Lakes, and it was a potential catastrophe. And I was sitting there, my young self had a chance to do something about it. Some of the ideas I floated that day were good, some were terrible. A lot of them weren't mine, but I ended up having a chance to support the ideas of others as the days and years went on. And I walked into that room with a love for the lakes, but what made it possible for me to be part of making a change that protected the lakes was the doors opened to me by people who came before I did. I can really draw a straight line from that meeting to 20 years ago to the pending construction of the Brandon Road barrier to stop Asian carp. That is the job that we're here to do today. And if people like the Alliance for the Great Lakes advocates were not in those rooms like that, day in and day out, those wins simply would not happen. As important as our expertise and our relationships and our values are, one of the most important jobs I have and we all have is to create the opportunities where people can keep the power of the Great Lakes movement going. I benefited enormously from people who have come before me, let me try, let me fail, and hopefully sometimes succeed. Now I want to talk about something we're doing tonight for the first time. We're having a group of people called Wavemakers that we're going to honor tonight with some of the because of their partnership with the Alliance. And every one of those partners is an example of that work of building the Great Lakes movement running through generations and younger leaders who are starting to call shots of their own. Okay, so first I want to highlight Chicago's open lands. Yes. Decades ago in the lore of open lands, there was a time when open lands took a chance on a new advocate named Lee Botts, and it became the birthplace of the Alliance and a building block of the entire Great Lakes movement. As they transitioned from a longtime leader and a literal force of nature in Jerry Edelman to a new era of growth with Mike Davidson, we all wanted to just say a generational thank you to open lands. I'm sure somebody here knows the story. Open Lands is Chicagoland's premier land conservation and protection organization. What's a little less known about Open Lands is that they're actually the organization that founded the Lake Michigan Federation, which eventually became the Alliance for the Great Lakes in 2005. So we're thankful tonight to have Open Lands with us as a wavemaker, recognizing that the Alliance for the Great Lakes really started way back in the late 60s at Open Lands. And as they enter into their next phase of important critical growth for land protection here in the Chicagoland area, we're thankful that they were there for us in the late 60s to get the Great Lakes protection movement started.
You know, kind of conservation connection with Lake Michigan was when I led efforts to create the first national heritage area in the country, the Illinois-Michigan Canal National Heritage Corridor. And it connected Lake Michigan, the original canal, with the Illinois River about 100 miles southwest. So it was so clear from the beginning that our lakefront is our premier natural resource. And you know, Open Lands was formed in 1963, one of the first conservation organizations in the nation to focus on a large metropolitan area. And from the beginning, we knew that our lakefront was just extraordinary and yet not really protected. As an organization, feel that nature is vital to everyone. It should be available at all scales to all people. And so the lakefront, again, is one of our preeminent resources, should be accessible to all, and it should be protected. We need to do everything we can to make it a safer place, and also for citizens here to really enjoy that extraordinary natural wonder of migration and birds that are resident as well. So improving habitat, improving access, engaging larger and more diverse members of our regional population in understanding the importance of the Great Lakes, and in particular Lake Michigan, is really central to all of our work as conservationists, you know, working in this region. And Open Lands is dedicated to making sure that forever our lakefront will be free, open, clear, accessible, resilient, and be beloved by the people who live here. So I just want to offer my great thanks to the Alliance for the Great Lakes. Such a visionary and impactful organization, needed now more than ever, and looking comprehensively at our Great Lakes as a system and not in isolation. Thank you for all you have done. We are honored at Open Lands to have played an important role in launching you, in partnering with you on many advocacy and preservation efforts, and look forward to an ongoing and deep partnership in the years ahead. Congratulations.
Being a maker is very personal. It starts with deep, personal, almost spiritual reverence for the Great Lakes, and appreciating the fact that the Great Lakes are the reason we're here to begin with. In many ways, they built the country and made us a global powerhouse. They're the defining feature of our economy, our culture, and history, and of course, they're a defining feature of the landscape. So not taking anything about this incredible resource for granted. And for Open Lands, being a wavemaker is about appreciating the unbreakable link between the land and water.
The Friends of Sleeping Bear Dunes is the Alliance's longest standing Adopt-a-Beach volunteer partner, keeping this awe-inspiring shoreline clean, protecting the dunes for millions of visitors and a huge diversity of wildlife, visitors who I understand are growing every single year. If you haven't been there, by the way, you've got to go to Sleeping Bear. Thank you to their volunteers who are joining us tonight. Mary Peterson is here. I know I met Jen earlier. I don't know if Jerry is also here. They have more than 100 volunteer members who are doing the work, keeping Sleeping Bear clean and protected every single year. Mary and everybody, thank you so much. Sleeping Bear Dunes is an incredible park in northwest Michigan with dozens of miles of Lake Michigan shoreline, incredible habitat for wildlife, birds, fish, and it's one of the most visited places in the Great Lakes region. It's also a personal favorite place of mine, which is why I'm thankful that Friends of Sleeping Bear Dunes has been one of the Alliance's longest serving Adopt a Beach volunteer groups in the region. They're out there all year round, picking up debris off the shoreline, keeping Sleeping Bear Dunes clean, and also collecting the data that shows just how big of a problem shoreline debris, especially plastic pollution, is here in the Great Lakes. Hats off to Friends of Sleeping Bear Dunes as an Alliance Wavemaker.
As a volunteer, I want to maintain the beauty of the lakeshore for future generations. My children, grandchildren, and those of everyone else who live along the shores of the Great Lakes or who come here to enjoy themselves. My personal journey began when we first visited the Sleeping Bear Dunes in the early 1980s. I was entranced by the beauty and serenity of the lakeshore. So much so that a few years later, my husband and I purchased property near the lakeshore so our children could grow up here. The Friends of Sleeping Bear Dunes is currently in its 30th year serving this community, and the Adopt a Beach program began in 2008. It evolved from a group of people who were running an annual beach cleanup in the park. Someone in the group commented that this would be a great idea for volunteers throughout the year, and the project was on. The Great Lakes make up 20% of the world's fresh water. I think we have a responsibility to preserve and protect this valuable resource. My hope is that my children will be able to live in and appreciate the majesty of the Great Lakes.
It is not enough to just keep the water in the lake clean. Our lakes flow through the drinking water and sewer systems that should keep us all healthy and safe. But for millions of people, especially people living in some low-income communities and in some communities of color across the Great Lakes, those systems have failed. At the Alliance, we are honored to partner with Little Village Environmental Justice Organization and the Illinois Environmental Council, who, with visionary leaders like Brenda Santoyo and Ayana Simba, co-leading the Illinois Water Justice Coalition. Ayana and Brenda, thank you.
For everyone to have access to clean, affordable, and accessible drinking water. I would say that I'm just really grateful to have had the guidance and the support of a number of the Alliance for the Great Lakes staff over the past few years. I think as a young person coming into this water justice space, a lot of this advocacy was very new to me. I think I had a lot to learn, and people like Angela Larson and Annalisa Castle really looked for opportunities where my organization Adelvejo and myself can step up as leaders in this work, not just locally in Chicago, but also collaborating with partners throughout the Great Lakes to increase our impact. I think that their support in helping build up the Water Justice Coalition was definitely super helpful, and we would not be where we're at without them. And due to the support that is coming from the Alliance for the Great Lakes, we're able to increase our impact throughout not just the city of Chicago, but also the state of Illinois and the entire Great Lakes region.
Being a Wavemaker to me involves making sure that you have a pathway of advocacy for other folks. So using your own individual power to advocate for the lake, but also making sure that you have space for people to speak up as well. Honestly, I didn't know that an organization like the Alliance for the Great Lake existed. And so when I had the opportunity to actually work with the organization and the folks that Brenda had named, like Angela Larson and Annalisa Castle, it allowed me to translate my love for the lake into actual policy. We have a huge source of drinking water, while other regions of the country and the world are struggling to find where they're going to get fresh water from. We have it right here at our front doorsteps. And so I think it's important not only because of what it makes me feel, but also what it provides to me and other folks. And it is, as Brenda said, it's essential to life. It's essential to our everyday life, our everyday living. And so it's not only just the emotional, it's also the economic value as well that makes it essential and why we need to fight for the protection of it.
And finally, one of our most important jobs, and I think for everybody in this room this is true, is communicating about the Great Lakes outside of those small rooms where decisions are made and where we're so privileged to be. Young filmmaker Asiana Spa last year created a film called Microplastics, Not a Small Problem, and went on to win the 2023 One Earth Film Festival College Prize. Thank you, Asiana, for bringing the truth about plastic pollution to new audiences. Communicating about the problems facing the Great Lakes is one of the most critical things that anybody in the region can do, young or old. And I'm so thankful for Asiana choosing to highlight the problem of plastic pollution here in the Great Lakes. And we're pleased to have her as a Wavemaker this year.
To me, a Wavemaker is someone who, in their daily personal lives and in their work, tries to advocate for the needs of our environment, especially regarding the Great Lakes, and constantly tries to improve how they live their own life to address those goals. I'm a student filmmaker, and I try to bring attention to the environment and social issues that I'm passionate about in my work. And in my own daily life, trying to make those little choices that can make a difference, like avoiding fast fashion, what I eat. I've grown up in Northwest Indiana for pretty much my entire life. I grew up about 20 minutes from the Indiana Dunes, right on Lake Michigan. So I've always grown up visiting the lakes and really appreciating the beauty of them. And obviously, a lot of the water supply in my neighboring communities depends on them. So it's very important to me as an individual and for my community to protect these waters. I began my relationship with the Alliance because I was creating a film for the One Earth Young Filmmakers Contest. And so I was looking at issues with the environment local to me and thought, hey, I live near Lake Michigan, and researched different issues that affected it and delved deep into microplastics because it honestly was an issue that I didn't know much about before. And once I did, I found it really interesting and an issue that's gaining more attention, but obviously still needs more and more action towards it. So I wanted to address that in my film. And when I had the opportunity to choose a donor for the grant that I won with the award, I thought the Alliance would be perfect because they're directly working with these bodies of water. My hope is that in the future, the Great Lakes will be even cleaner than my fond memories as a child, and that I can personally, with my community, try to mitigate issues like microplastic pollution. I'm really excited that next year I will be studying radio, television, and film at Northwestern University right next to Lake Michigan. So I hope to continue to advocate for environmental issues affecting our Great Lakes, as well as hopefully working with the Alliance in the future as I'm staying local to the area.
To address issues like clean drinking water, plastic pollution, agricultural pollution, climate change in the lakes, we have to support the leaders who are going to take on that next generation of challenges. You'll know that the Alliance is harnessing this passion when you see our cleanups on track this year to pick up the 10 millionth piece of litter from Great Lakes shorelines. When we finally do push over that final hurdle to stop invasive carp from getting into the lakes, when we can ensure that all communities can eliminate unsafe drinking water and flooding and sewage overflows, and when we hold plastic manufacturers accountable for the waste that they create, that's our job. Every time you turn on your tap, I hope you're reminded of your love for the lakes. We're there with you, fighting to make sure that the lakes are clean, that your water is healthy. It's possible because of your generosity and because you believe in the leaders in this room who dedicate their lives to the Great Lakes, dedicate their lives to you and each other. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to support the Alliance. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual Great Blue Benefit. None of our work would be possible without generous supporters like you. Your energy and enthusiasm for the Great Lakes is the heart of the Alliance. You're there with us, supporting that volunteer picking up plastic from our beaches, protecting the family drinking tap water from the lakes, and safeguarding clean water for the way of life that sustains us all. I thank you for your past support and encourage you to consider giving today. I'd like to thank our generous sponsors, especially Solberg Manufacturing.
Solberg is an international manufacturer of industrial filtration, separation, and silencing products. We're headquartered just outside of Chicago in the United States. With highly responsive service and facilities located throughout the Americas, Europe, and Asia, we are positioned to address filtration challenges just about anywhere in the world. Our filtration experts design and build high-performance filtration systems used with rotating equipment, including vacuum pumps, blowers, fans, compressors, and engines. We produce using renewable energy from our on-site solar power installations. We also work with local energy companies to secure grid-supplied electricity from green power sources. Solberg specializes in high-volume production of filter elements, utilizing a variety of pleated filter media options. Our housings and canisters are fabricated using industrial-grade materials that are ideal for deployment in harsh operating environments. Our diverse manufacturing capabilities also allow us to produce small-batch custom solutions, purpose-built to provide high value and protect your equipment. From custom-sized elements to vacuum canisters to pressure vessels, Solberg has the ability and willingness to design and fabricate the right solution for your specific filtration, separation, and silencing needs.
GCM Grosvenor, Builder's Vision, the John Dykema and Michelle Maley Dykema Family Foundation, the Joyce Foundation, Miller Cooper and Company, Martha and Dennis Pierce, Therese Ann and David Seeger, Jeannie and Thomas Tisbo, BMO Private Bank, Paul Culhane, Board Director Emeritus of the Alliance, Meredith Davis Miller, William and Kelly Koch, and Laura Payne. Thank you.